think that's mine. That's why it wasn't working for you. All right, welcome to Cancun. Good morning, everyone. All right, we have a great program for you today, so let us get started. If I could just have my slides. Excellent. Well, I'm really excited to welcome you all to our first in-person, sold-out NerdioCon. We are really grateful to all of our sponsors and all of you who have taken time out of your busy schedules to come here and spend a couple of days to really up your game in building an Azure, AVD, and Windows 365 MSP practice. Although, let's be honest, where else would you rather be in February than Cancun? I'm also extremely proud of the entire Nerdio team who really worked tirelessly for many, many months to plan this event and to make it as great as possible. There's a lot of uncertainty in today's world, and we really didn't know if this was actually going to happen, even many months into the planning process. But I'm extremely proud and pleased as to what they were able to put together, and we have a great event for you with lots of learning opportunities to make new connections, and, of course, have some fun here in Cancun. Additionally, as Joseph and Natasha already mentioned, we really couldn't have put together such a high-quality event without the participation and support of our NerdioCon sponsors. And you'll hear from these leading distributors, cybersecurity experts, and channel vendors in a variety of formats, from breakout sessions and quick pitches, main stage presentations, and of course, one-on-one time in the vendor hall outside. You'll also have access to one-of-a-kind sessions from our premier sponsor, Microsoft, and our very close partner, including keynotes delivered by Scott Manchester and Cam Vedbrat, who are the engineering leaders for Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. Now, even though this is our first in-person event, it's actually the second NerdioCon. The first NerdioCon was held last year in January, and it was a virtual event. We would have loved to make it an in-person one, but obviously the pandemic didn't allow for that. And during that conference, we had hundreds of MSPs that came together for 2 days. We had over 50 technical sessions where we talked about how to build and grow a desktop virtualization practice in Microsoft Azure with AVD. It was at last year's NerdioCon that we announced the launch of our new product, Nerdio Manager for MSP, and the response and growth and adoption of that product has really exceeded even our highest expectations. I'm also very proud of the speakers that we have for you over the next 2 days, and really want to thank them for taking the time to be here and to help us all learn together. As a company that focuses on desktop virtualizations for many years, having Scott Manchester and Cam Vedbrat from Microsoft, the engineering leaders of desktop virtualization services that Microsoft creates is really a great honor for us, and I really want to thank them for presenting for us today. It's also my pleasure to welcome back one of the most popular speakers of last year's NerdioCon, Gabriela Schuster, who last year spoke to us about the opportunity that MSPs have to build a successful cloud practice in Azure with Nerdio. And this year, she'll be leading a very important and interactive workshop tomorrow morning that will help your MSP improve your business through diversity, equity, and inclusion. So be sure to watch out and attend that session. As Joseph and Natasha mentioned, we have a great agenda for you over the next couple of days. It's really jam-packed with amazing speakers, excellent content, and lots of opportunities to learn in one-to-many, one-to-few, and even one-on-one manner. We know you'll have an amazing time and walk away, hopefully, with actionable insights that will allow you to build and scale your MSP practice. Now, let's talk about the reason that we are really all here today and look at the opportunity that's available to MSPs today. So I've actually been in the MSP, in your shoes for quite a bit of time. Before starting Nerdio, I started and ran an MSP in Chicago for 15 years. And I really can't think of a time in our industry that felt to be more opportune than it is right now. Now, the need and the market demand for what you do for customers really hasn't been greater than it is today. And I think partially, or maybe to a large extent, it was accentuated by the pandemic, where the organizations that you service really needed to stay productive from anywhere. Cloud certainly came out to be the clear platform to enable this transformation, but really the engine of making the transformation happen are the MSPs who need to take those customers that have this new need, in addition of everything they needed previously, and take them into the new world with cloud and make that transformation possible. Now, let's spend a couple of minutes and talk about Azure. If you think about Azure, it's a fairly mature business. It's been around, for about 12 years now. It's a large business. It's approximately $15 billion in revenue. And amazingly, over, at least the last 4 years or so, it has been growing 50% year over year. You see the results coming out from Microsoft, quarter after quarter, and it's amazing to see such a high growth rate. Now, if you think about it, do you know other businesses or many other businesses or really any other businesses that are mature like Azure, 12 years, that are at such a large scale of, over $10 billion, $15 billion, and are growing at such an amazing rate? I can't think of many. And, the question I would pose to you is your MSP, maybe it's not 15 billion or 12 years old necessarily, but is it growing at 50% year over year? And if not, then there is really some lesson that we can learn from what's happening here in the industry. Why is Azure growing so rapidly? And the market is really, trying to tell us something here that we need to pay attention to. Microsoft also continues to invest tremendous amount of resources into work from anywhere technologies, including AVD and Windows 365. And not only are the products getting better and more capable with more features, every day, but Microsoft also has renewed its focus on the MSP ecosystem and is investing in many more go-to-market resources to help you, the MSPs, be more successful. Now, a question that I often hear that our partners ask is, in this new cloud world where most or all applications are trending or going towards a SaaS, software as a service type of a delivery model, is there still a significant role for MSPs to play? And in my mind, the answer is unquestionably yes, certainly for the MSP industry as a whole. Now, an individual MSP, in order to take advantage of this opportunity, really must evolve from what a typical MSP may be doing, nowadays. Not necessarily the people in this room, but if you think about the industry as a whole, there's quite a bit of learning and evolution that needs to take place to take advantage of this opportunity. Now, why is that? If you think about at the core, what is the value that an MSP delivers? And I believe the value that an MSP delivers is abstracting the complexity of technology from your non-technical customers. There is a lot of technical complexity in our world today, and for most organizations who don't have dedicated large IT teams, that complexity is just not something they need to have to put up with. And MSPs are the ones who are there to abstract it from them and deliver business outcomes by taking on all of that complexity onto themselves and in turn delivering that value to the customer. Now, if the value is in reducing complexity, then it would stand to reason that the bigger, the larger the complexity in the system, the more opportunity there is to add value and to grow and capture that value. And I think anyone would be hard-pressed to say that as the world is becoming more complex, there is cloud, organizations rely on technology more and more. Every organization now views technology as a mission-critical component of what they do. The pace of change of technology is kind of mind-boggling and different to keep up with, even for those for whom it is a full-time job to do so. Imagine a law firm or a healthcare practice whose job is really to take care of customers or take care of clients and take care of patients. For them, this is not something they should be doing or want to be doing or are capable of doing. And add to this cybersecurity, work from anywhere challenges, cloud migrations, and I think it becomes clear that with growing complexity and growing reliance on IT, with MSPs being the ones who abstract and remove that complexity, there is a tremendous opportunity to deliver value for the MSP industry. Now, in order to deliver this value and capture this opportunity, MSPs certainly must evolve their skills and approach. It's not going to be news to anyone in this room, but it may be for some out there, but selling, maintaining, installing, and managing on-premises hardware is really, not going to cut it. I think, nowadays it's a kind of an obvious statement, but I think, a lot of MSPs that we see out in the market are really still kind of hiding their head in the sand and pretending that there is a long-term sustainable business. And that's not going away completely, but it's certainly not going to maximize and help you capture the opportunity that's there. What does that mean? That means that MSPs must build skills and technical intensity in areas such as cloud, security, desktop virtualization, and various other work-from-anywhere technologies. And if you look at the MSP market, you'll see a ton of M&A activity. You see, a lot of availability of capital, a lot of investment going on, a ton of consolidation, and really shows that there is value in productized, focused, and standardized solutions that are scalable and can be delivered on a subscription basis to customers to enable all of these new trends. So there's, clear indicators that there is a lot of value and a lot of growth that's expected from this industry. Again, you all know this, and that is the reason why you're here today. Unfortunately, those MSPs who don't learn how to evolve won't necessarily be in a position to take advantage of this great opportunity. And this is really where Nerdio comes in. We try to be at the forefront of helping MSPs evolve and take advantage of this tremendous market potential by empowering you with, technology and tools, but also with education, expertise, and services to build a thriving cloud practice in your MSP. So besides the great technology that's found in our Nerdio Manager for MSP product, we've invested and continue to invest very heavily in several programs and resources that help you on this journey. So let me kind of share a few of them. Again, some of you may be familiar with these, others may not. So let me go through some of these programs in more detail. So this past year, we launched our Partnered program, hope you like the name, to help partners on their Azure journey with various valuable resources, including access to our go-live engineering help that helps you take your customer, sort of from on-prem into cloud, step by step, and make sure that that process is a technical success. Our internal use licenses that lets you use our technology at no charge internally for your own practice, so you can eat your own dog food, so to speak, and get used to and familiar with the technology, and many other benefits that are part of the Partnered program, and there are several tiers. If you don't know the specifics, you can ask us and we'll share more with you. The second thing I want to talk about are the training and certification classes. We've launched official certifications now for all of our products towards the end of last year and early this year. I'll go through some of them. The first one is NMM, Nerdio Manager for MSP 100, which demonstrates an MSP's knowledge of Azure and Nerdio fundamentals. We have the NMM 200, which is a more advanced exam that really tests an engineer's expertise in MSP-specific Azure concepts and mastery of Nerdio Manager for MSP. And then on the enterprise side of our business, we have NME 200, which demonstrates mastery of Azure Virtual Desktop and Nerdio Manager for Enterprise for those who pass that exam. Then we have our new partner community that enables partners to interact with each other in sort of a peer-to-peer digital way and help one another with technical or business questions, any sort of gotchas that they may be discovering, and just really creates a digital community where you can collaborate with each other. We've also launched what we call Nerdio Accelerate for MSPs, which is a series of video walkthroughs that provides step-by-step instructions on how to deploy and manage Azure, AVD, Windows 365 with Nerdio Manager, and it has been very popular, and we've gotten some great feedback on how much learning that has facilitated for our partners. Our Help Center content really grew pretty dramatically over the last year and is really a tremendous repository of MSP-specific knowledge about Azure, AVD, and Windows 365. We have tens of thousands of monthly visitors who come to the website to learn about things like troubleshooting FSLogix, setting up auto-scaling, or managing AVD, and really all topics, Nerdio and non-Nerdio specific, because the content is so highly curated to you, the MSP, where it's super relevant and it covers a broad range of topics, and it has become extremely popular and accessed a lot. Through our Luncheon with Nerdio program, we've conducted hundreds of online classes and webinars on technical and business topics that range from demystifying Azure to quoting and pricing AVD opportunities. And then you can find us delivering these classes almost every week in various time zones. So watch out for all the various topics that are happening on a regular basis. And then finally, something that I and the entire team are extremely proud of is our world-class support. We invest a lot in support, and we value support very much. As I mentioned, I ran an MSP, and the way that we distinguished our services and appreciated the services of our vendors was the quality of their support was really paramount in the relationship. So we take support very seriously and believe that we have world-class support that we deliver to our partners. A couple of stats I'll brag about. As of right now, we have a median response time of 7 minutes. We have a median resolution of 20 minutes and a CSAT score of 97%. Again, room to improve, but I think those are some good metrics and testament to thank you. And we really try to be there for our partners every day whenever they need us and help them as much as we can. This past year, we also launched the Nerdio Valued Professional Program to recognize and empower exceptional Nerdio experts who selflessly give their time back to the community. And we named our first 3 MVPs this year, Todd Porter from Microsoft, Shabazz Dar from Netcompany, and Toby Scarrett from Foundation IT. These individuals have all done amazing work in the ecosystem with Nerdio, and we're fortunate to have 2 of them in the audience today. So Shabazz and Toby, if you please stand up. There you are. Let's all recognize them for their amazing work. Great work, guys. Congrats. Now, is all of this making a difference? I just went through all of these programs that we have, and we talked briefly about the technology that we'll talk about more in detail, but is this really all making a difference? So I think the proof is in the pudding. So we launched Nerdio Manager for MSP, as I mentioned, last NerdioCon, which was January of last year. We announced that we have this new product, new architecture, and we're going to be launching Nerdio Manager for MSP, or NMM. It went into GA, into general availability, in April, so just about 10 months ago. And since then, we've seen thousands of MSPs from over 40 countries around the world deploy the software and onboard customers into Azure with AVD and now Windows 365. And hundreds of new MSPs are joining us every single month in taking their customers to Azure. Now, last September, so 5 months ago or so, we also announced that we crossed 1 million users under management across all Nerdio products. And at that time, it was sort of a surreal kind of a number and a milestone that we really didn't anticipate that we'll be able to reach, or that order of magnitude didn't seem realistic at the time. And I'm actually happy to report that as of this month, we are crossing 2 million users under management across all our products. So just in 5 short months, we were able to double from 1 million to 2 million, and I think that's really a testament to the market opportunity and to the receptivity of the MSPs to what we bring into the market, from technology to programs to services, in helping you evolve and bring customers into Azure. And I really don't see any sign of this slowing down, and we're hoping to continue this trend and only accelerate. All right, so any success that I just talked about that we have in the market it really comes on the back of partners like you who believe in us and have gone on this journey with us. I thought it would be great to invite a partner who started with us at Nerdio about 2 years ago and has seen tremendous success in the market. So I'd like to call up Richard Harbour, CEO of Decision Digital from Atlanta, Georgia. Richard, there you are.
That's a wonderful picture of me.
Excellent. So Richard, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your MSP?
I'm Eric Stratton. I'm Rush Chairman, Delta Tuck High. I'm Rick Harbour. I'm from Decision Digital in Atlanta, Georgia. We're a 25-year-old MSP that's stayed true to building networks, design, building, managing, maintaining them. Made the transition from break fix to managed services 10 or 15 years ago. And I'm a nerd.
Okay, good to have you. Well, how did you meet us at Nerdio, and sort of what made you choose to want to work with us?
How many of you know about Rikers Island? Raise your hand. Joseph Landis and I met. I'm kidding. Actually, that's where Will and I met. We were looking to retire our 2 data centers. We had one in Dallas, Texas, one in Atlanta, Georgia. We were running up on the need to do a hardware refresh, a massive hardware refresh. I'm curious, kind of show of hands, how many people have ran into that same kind of problem? Massive spend, and you start to ask yourself the questions of, is there a better way? So we started to ask around to our peers. We learned about Nerdio. I was introduced to Joseph, who came down to Atlanta and visited with me, and we started what has become a really wonderful business partnership and friendship over the years, and have moved away from our data centers, and we're fully in Azure, and we're a really good success story.
Great. That's good to hear. How has your experience been actually moving those customers from your existing data center to Azure?
It wasn't as hard as we thought it would be.
Okay.
I think that a lot of what happens in Azure is you kind of don't know what you don't know. You read and you try to understand things, and then you try to figure it out on your own, and you realize, well, that's not really for mere mortals. You start to use the Nerdio tools, and then you start to understand a little bit more how the pieces come together. I think the most valuable lesson that we learned is that the laws of physics as they apply to Nerdio's, or as they apply to Azure, I should say, are very different than the laws of physics for local on-premise networks. You start to understand that it's not nearly as much about CPUs and storage and resources, it's all about IOPS. And when you start to understand that, that's when you start to get the bigger picture of Azure and how it operates in comparison to what we used to do on premise. In the beginning, we blew our leg off because we had to learn this lesson. Once we did, it made all the difference in the world, and we've had a high level of success, and the transition actually was much, much easier.
Excellent. Any advice for partners that are considering, dipping their toes in the water with Azure and migrating to it with Nerdio? Anything,
Of course there's advice.
Please, share it.
So I told you about understanding the laws of physics. That's important. I think the other piece that we've learned along the way, and I know you talk about this, is sometimes, you got to think of Azure kind of like a department store. There are a lot of doors and there are a lot of departments. Sometimes the best way to get somebody into Azure is not virtual desktop. It may be something else. It may be files. It may be SQL. It may be Azure Site Recovery. I can share with you that a lot of people that we talked about moving into virtual desktop just weren't ready, or they just didn't get it. We decided to kind of tell them about things like Azure Site Recovery and get them to start using Azure, build that trust and the belief in the system and the platform. And then once they're inside the department store, we can move them around to the other departments and say, hey, have you thought about virtual desktop? Have you thought about files? All the different things that were there. So if there's a piece of advice that I can leave you with is, don't think that the gateway into Azure is just virtual desktop. There's a stack of technologies. Some of them are lower threshold that you can get your folks into, and you can actually get them into in many ways that they don't even know, and earn that trust and the belief in the platform, and then you can move them around inside, and I think you'll find that you'll have better results.
Well, that's great advice.
There you go.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks so much for coming
Pleasure.
up.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you again, Rick, for coming up. Now, this rapid adoption of Nerdio technology didn't slow down our innovation. On the contrary, we're really focused on tuning our product organization to really listen intently to our customers and partners' feedback, and then take that feedback and very quickly convert it into new features and new releases, and really provide as much value and functionality as we could as rapidly as possible. So what you can see here is that in the last 12 months, we've had 50 new releases of Nerdio Manager for MSP with about 180 new features. And then we had 12 new releases of Nerdio Manager for Enterprise with 171 new features. Again, all or vast majority of those were customer and partner feedback driven. And that's really something that we're proud of, to be able to take feedback from our customers and partners and convert it into valuable functionality commonly and likely in a next month's release. So instead of waiting for a year for something that you need, we generally are able to take it and bring it to you very, very quickly on such a rapid schedule. Again, that's next month and not next year as in some cases. We really have no intention of slowing this down, and I'm really thrilled to tell you about some of the exciting things you can expect from the Nerdio Manager for MSP product that I'll be telling you about next. So let's take a step back and kind of think about the world that you live as an MSP from a service delivery perspective. You live in the world of managing desktops, whether those are physical or virtual, infrastructure, whether that's physical on-premises infrastructure or cloud infrastructure, and obviously applications, because who needs desktops and infrastructure if you can't run apps, and ultimately data. That's the world you live in today. And the question we need to be answering is, how can MSPs continue to add value in a cloud-first world where companies are adopting SaaS software and they're starting with cloud as opposed to maybe bringing in some of that legacy thinking from on-premises environment. And there's lots of opportunities where you can do very similar things, just having evolving that skill set a little bit that you currently do and being able to do it in the cloud. The obvious things are managing endpoints, whether those are physical devices or virtual desktops in the cloud, managing applications, managing and deploying cloud infrastructure, dealing with modern identity like Azure AD and Zero Trust security that's sort of all integrated into that, and obviously protecting the organization's data. Now, a couple of evolutions that we're seeing in the space is with the support for Azure Active Directory join capability, now both in Azure Virtual Desktop and in Windows 365, we believe the reliance on the domain controller, the Active Directory domain controller, and then the VMs and all of the supporting infrastructure that really requires quite a bit of additional complexity and just a lot of cloud infra that needs to be in place is really going to be going away in the near future. Again, not going to happen overnight, but it is something that's going to happen rather quickly, probably in smaller organizations first, and then over time in larger ones as well. Now, if you think about where Nerdio fit into this whole picture, is until now we really have focused on helping MSPs build successful Azure cloud practices by enabling you to automate the deployment, management, and optimization of virtual desktops. That's been kind of a key focus, and cloud infrastructure. Our focus has been on AVD, Windows 365, virtual machines that run your servers, file servers, domain controllers, application servers, backup using Azure technology, networking, file storage, and several other IaaS services. Now, in the new version of Nerdio Manager for MSP, which is available right now, you will see some additional capabilities that I'm very excited to share with you. So to help you adopt these new cloud-first technologies, taking into account everything that I mentioned previously, my first major announcement is that we're going to be expanding Nerdio Manager for MSP, or NMM, if you hear me using the acronym. Apologies, but it's shorter to say. We're going to be integrating it with Microsoft Endpoint Manager, or MEM. And the reason we do that is because we've seen over the last year, MEM really seen widespread adoption in IT departments around the world. And many of you may already be using Intune, which is a component of Microsoft Endpoint Manager, on a regular basis. And Microsoft continues to really rapidly innovate and invest in this tool. And as a matter of fact, for most of your customers, I'm sure you know this, but the Microsoft 365 Business Premium already has the license to manage the customer's endpoints with Intune. Now, we really see MEM becoming a critical tool in an MSP's toolbox. And as you build and support IT infrastructures for customers in a more modern, cloud-first world. Now, specifically, what are some of the things that you'll be able to do through Nerdio Manager? So you will now be able to manage all endpoints, including virtual ones, right? So AVD desktops, pool desktops, personal desktops, Windows 365 cloud PCs, and physical devices, PCs with Windows, Mac OS, and even mobile devices, all through the familiar interface of the Nerdio Manager. You'll be able to apply security and configuration baselines and policies to ensure that the endpoints are compliant. And that is really critical in today's world where users are working from anywhere with devices that you need to ensure are trusted and are protected and follow some policies that you as the MSP or the customer wants to enforce on those. So being able to configure and monitor that compliance is really important. You'll also be able to leverage endpoint analytics that can tell you about performance and user experience, so you can take some actionable steps on improving that for your users. And then eventually, you will also be able to provide remote assistance to your users from within Nerdio Manager using the new remote help tool. Now, let me show you what this actually looks like, and hopefully my live demo will work and the internet is good. All right. So, so the first thing I want to show you is in Nerdio Manager version 3.0, you'll see a new menu, Intune that you see right there. And let's go into devices. So under devices, you will see a list of various devices, and you can see these could be AVD desktops, cloud PCs, physical devices, mobile devices. And each device will have several actions that you can take on it. So for instance, if you take a look at this drop-down menu, hopefully you can see that. You, for instance, can take a look at something like startup performance. If you click on startup performance, that's going to give you an overall score, tell you that, that PC has a score of 62, and it will give you some useful insight. For example, what the boot history looked like, how long, whether there was an update, how long the boot of the machine took. You can also see applications that are contributing towards the logon experience and the impact that each application has that really gives you the ability to kind of monitor and optimize that type of an environment for a customer. Let's take a look at a few more things. Sorry, let me just find my mouse. There we go. All right, some of the other things you can do here is you can look at discovered apps. You can, so these basically are apps that are installed on the machine. You can also manage applications, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. You can look at application reliability and ultimately see the compliance of any policies that may be applied to this user based on their group membership. So if we go under policies, we can see various security baselines as well as compliance policies that you can then choose what users this applies to and perform all of your assignments and maintain, monitor compliance. So I know internet's a little slower than it should be, but all right. Let's go back here. Okay, so let's talk about more enhancements that we are bringing to Nerdio Manager for you. So, the next thing I want to talk about is applications. Applications are really the reason why desktops exist, right? Having a desktop with a nice, pretty background, but without being able to run applications that access, corporate data is kind of useless. So applications are really a key component to talk about. And NMM already has a pretty robust application management capabilities for virtual desktops with powerful image management, automation, scripted actions, various methods of installing and managing your apps. Now, there's several new application management capabilities I'm really excited to tell you about that are in version 3 that you can see today. The first one has to do with multi-session pooled desktops in Azure Virtual Desktop. Now, this leverages the FS Logic's app masking technology, but it makes it super easy and automated to do. So what's the goal of all of this? The goal of this is to be able to have fewer images with applications managed, maybe even on a single image. So you would install all of your apps on a single desktop image, deliver it to one or more host pools, and then on a per user or per security group basis, decide who gets to see which app. And it's not just a matter of seeing a shortcut, double-clicking on it, and getting an error message. It's a matter of really hiding and making the applications completely masked from the users who shouldn't have access. Nerdio Manager will automatically discover all the apps installed on a host pool and give you an inventory, let you create manual ones if you want, but it will auto-discover all the installed apps. And then all you have to do is click about which apps you want to put in a rule, and then decide whom you're going to assign those apps to. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. The second thing I want to talk about when it comes to application management is the ability to manage all types of apps on both physical and virtual desktops, cloud PCs, again, physical desktops, personal AVD desktops, through Intune integration. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So let's go back into Nerdio Manager, and first let me show you what the multi-session host pool management looks like. Let's open up AVD, go to host pools. We'll pick a host pool right here. We'll go to the drop-down, go to Manage, and select Installed Apps. What you'll see here is that there is going to be an automatic discovery that will run. You can see there is a date stamp right there with a list of 14 apps that were discovered on this machine. If you want to run a discovery manually, right on demand, you can click on this Discover Apps button. It will show you existing apps that are there. You can specify alternate installation paths if you want. Again, this is all optional. It does all of this automatically for you. And you can even choose the session host VM within the host pool where you want to actually run this discovery. Once the apps are discovered, all you need to do is create a rule set. When you create a rule set, you give it a name. You select whether this rule set is enabled or disabled, so you can sort of pre-stage a rule set, apply it, test it, disable it, so you have a lot of flexibility there. Then all you do is you select your application, so let's go ahead and select Edge. And then you have the option to either make this a whitelist or blacklist type of assignment. So by default, you can say, make this app available to all except, I don't know, let's say customer admin group or something like that, a customer admins group. So what this will do is it will make sure that Edge is on everyone's desktop when they log in, except for anyone who's a member of this group. To them, it's going to be completely transparent. There won't be any registry entries, any shortcuts, any executables visible on that machine. So this is more of a blacklist approach, right? You allow to all except for some. The other approach is very simple. You uncheck this box, which makes this unavailable to everyone except for the users listed in these groups. And in this scenario, no one will have Edge on their desktop session, but everyone in the customer admins group will. So you can see this is pretty powerful functionality and is really easy to use to help you assign and manage applications in a very traditional and familiar way on a regular image VM, and then deploy those and apply them to various users. Now, once you create this rule set, you can either save it, and then anytime you re-image your hosts or new hosts are added, those rules will apply. Or you can actually save and apply this rule set, or you can obviously apply rule sets on demand as needed. As soon as you apply it without the user even logging off the machine, those icons will disappear or will appear, depending on whether you set up a whitelist or a blacklist, and those applications will become available. So this is app management for installed application management on AVD. The other thing I want to show you is app management through Intune. So if you go under apps, here you can see the various applications. You can use MSI, MSIX, Windows Store applications. You can create them in here, and then you can select which users they're assigned to. And then those users' devices, the next time they come online and they check into Intune, they will download the package and install it locally. You can also uninstall applications in a similar way. So again, just gives you another way to manage applications for both physical and virtual devices across the board. All right, let's keep going. The third area that I want to talk about is really margin optimization. Now, in a cloud-first world, costs can feel a little elastic. They change too often, really for our comfort. And cloud pricing is based on consumption, and customers really don't like surprise bills. And often we see MSPs kind of get caught in the middle of that. Now, we understand that cost and margins are really extremely important to our MSP partners, right? You're in the business of delivering this technology, and the more efficient you can be in optimizing your service delivery and your technology stack to deliver the same quality of service to the customer, the more profitable you are and the more successful in business you are. So from day one, part of our mission has always been, cost optimization and thinking about, where can we help you save on costs. When I was running an MSP, there was a huge focus, for me in my own business, and we brought that same thinking as we were building out our tool set. So we continue to focus on that, and there are several new technologies that you'll see in Nerdio Manager for MSP version 3 that kind of support this. So think of a scenario when you're using the Nerdio cost estimator and you're putting together an architecture for a client, you save that estimate, you have a per user per month price, you go out, you put out the proposal, the client signs off, you deploy that client, and you're charging them some fixed per user per month or fixed monthly fee for that deployment. And then as time goes on, things are so easy to change in the cloud. You can click one button and go to a bigger VM, a smaller VM, a bigger disk, a smaller disk. And as time goes on, your deployment may actually diverge from that estimate that you created, which is what your pricing is based on. And oftentimes, it's difficult to know, am I spending more? Am I spending less than I originally budgeted for this? So what we created to help you in that process is a report that's going to compare a live deployed environment to a saved estimate for that customer. Now, what does that do? That actually visually highlights for you every aspect of your deployment relative to what you thought it was going to cost you, and highlights areas where you're either spending more than what you estimated or less than what you estimated. So you can really zoom in and figure out, is this a big deal? Do I need to go back to the customer and charge them more, renegotiate pricing, whatever the case may be? But this just exposes and gives you that information in a very easily consumable way, and I'm going to show that to you in a minute. The second thing we did is we noticed a lot of our partners powering on their image VMs. A lot of times, the technicians and engineers will go in to patch or make changes to those image VMs and then forget to turn them off, right? That's a common problem. You may have a large VM that you're using to manage your images, and that's just an unnecessary expense that we've seen one too many times. So we've added two things to help with that. Number one, when you power on a desktop image, it will actually give you a checkbox to say, automatically shut this down in 8 hours by default, or whatever number of hours you want to specify. That way someone kind of prevents, there's lower risk that you'll end up with, wasteful consumption. And then also, if someone doesn't check the box or forgets to shut the desktop, there's going to be alerting right within the tool where our engine will detect things in the environment that are running currently that you should be probably looking at and taking offline to save on those costs. The next thing I want to talk about is Windows 365 Enterprise and some of the license optimizations that are going to be coming to Nerdio Manager for MSP. So with Windows 365, because it's an M365 license, once you purchase that license, you're paying for it. And once you assign it to a user, regardless of consumption, unlike in Azure with AVD, you're incurring that cost of the license. Now, wouldn't it be great if you could purchase a smaller number of licenses and only assign them when the user actually logs into their desktop rather than in advance? Now, if you do that, obviously the user will have to wait for some amount of time for that desktop to become available, but at least you know that you're giving licenses only to those users that actually need the device. As an administrator, or as a business owner, you may say, well, I want to give, virtual desktops or cloud PCs to all my employees, but in reality, we see, especially in large deployments, only 60% of those named users actually end up logging in to a virtual desktop. So with Nerdio Manager, you'll be able to do what's called automatic license assignment, where a user will get a license assigned to them only upon first login. And that way you can have a smaller batch of licenses, a smaller subscription you purchase, and as users log in, that gets drained, the number of available licenses goes down, and then as soon as it reaches a threshold, let's say only 10% free remaining, an administrator gets an email saying, hey, go buy more. So you basically kind of buy these licenses on demand, and users get those licenses as they log in. On the flip side of it, you may have a user who logged into a cloud PC at one point, got a license, and then either left the organization and somebody forgot to assign that license, or maybe their workflow and work habits have changed and they're no longer using the cloud PC, right? We certainly see that happening, and that license sort of stays there for a longer period of time than necessary. Your customer is paying for it, but no one is really using it. So that's where Nerdio's unused license reclamation comes in. There's an engine that monitors user logon activity, and after a predefined period, whether it's 60 days or 90 days or 45 days, whatever you define, that license gets removed. That cloud PC goes into grace period, and a notification is sent out that that license has been reclaimed. If the user logs back in because, oh, no, I just haven't been using it, but I still need it, license gets reassigned, and if not, that cloud PC gets deprovisioned, and the license becomes available to someone else to use. So that's license optimizations on Windows 365 side. And finally, as with everything that we do, we try to make our product open and available for you to integrate with other systems you have to kind of maintain a consistent workflow. So we'll continue adding APIs for any new functionality that we add, and certainly continue supporting and enhancing the open API that we have for all of the existing features. So let me actually show you some of these things in action. So let's go into the report section and take a look at that deployed versus estimated report. So we'll go into reports. You can see estimated versus deployed. You can actually run this report. When you run it, it's going to walk you through a wizard asking you to select an estimate, asking you to match up VMs. If you estimated a SQL server, it will say, okay, which of these VMs is your SQL server? So a quick wizard that's going to help you match things up. And then what you get is something that looks like this. And here you have kind of highlighting anything that's in this Nerdio blue color means that you're actually, I wouldn't call it under provision, but you've provisioned something that's less expensive than what you budgeted for in your estimate. And anything in this yellow color means that you provisioned something that is more expensive than what you budgeted for. And it does this based on host pools, based on licensing, based on backup and Azure Hybrid Benefit and reserved instances, all of the stuff that you can put into a Nerdio cost estimator, you'll be able to compare here and get at a glance highlighted report of where you need to focus your attention to either change your pricing or readjust your deployment. All right, the next thing I want to show you is let's go into desktop images. And I have an image here. So when you power off a desktop image, you'll get a checkbox that can schedule a power off, so you don't forget to turn off that machine. And if you don't schedule a power off and click OK and that VM starts, then there's going to be a banner that comes up after 8 hours drawing your attention to that. All right. We are not done with product updates. The last category I want to tell you about is really keeping up with Microsoft and the IT industry in general. And this could really be a more than full-time job. And what we try to do is make it simple for you by staying on top of the relevant changes, both big and small, that Microsoft is putting out with their products that we work with and curate for you, and build them into our products. So when something appears in Nerdio, you know that there's some new capability or something new that you should be paying attention to. Some notable categories. I know for many of you, the new commerce experience is very much top of mind. So in the Nerdio cost estimator, you'll now be able to take that into account. You'll be able to select annual subscription, the monthly subscriptions, and the pricing will be adjusted accordingly. Microsoft recently released their API for Windows 365 Business admin capabilities, which we've fully now integrated into with Nerdio Manager for MSP. You'll be able to do things like change user account type, making a user either a local administrator or a standard user. You can change the version of Windows from Windows 10 to Windows 11, do this on a per user basis or at an organizational level. And as Microsoft continues enhancing and bringing more capabilities and exposing those APIs, we'll obviously continue to stay on track and keep it updated. We're also really excited about Windows 365 Enterprise Azure AD joint support, which is currently in preview. That is now available in our products, both Nerdio Manager for MSP and Nerdio Manager for Enterprise. And really the promise here is that you no longer need an Azure footprint of any kind to deploy cloud PCs. Previously with Windows 365 Enterprise, you had to use hybrid AD join, which means you needed a domain controller that had line of sight to your cloud PC so they can join the domain, get synced to Azure AD, and work like that. And that created longer provisioning times and just more complexity in the deployment. With the new Azure AD join capabilities, you can go completely without any Azure footprint at all. You can select a Microsoft-hosted network, which is where the VMs will be deployed. They will join Azure AD, which is a native cloud identity service, without any domain controllers in the picture, without any complex infrastructure. And we really are hoping that you find this capability very useful and easy to implement through the Nerdio Manager through just a very simple wizard that you go through. And then one other example I want to mention is ephemeral OS disks. Ephemeral OS disks in Azure is a faster, free storage tier for operating system disks. The challenge is, previously these disks had to be stored in the disk cache of the VM, which meant only the larger VMs had enough disk cache to allow for storage of these ephemeral disks. So for example, if you have a 128 gigabyte image, you would need at least an 8-core VM that has a sufficiently large disk cache. With the new ephemeral OS disk placement, which can use the temp disk storage rather than the disk cache, you can now use much smaller VMs. For example, a 4-core VM can run a 128 gigabyte image. And if you can reduce your image down to 64 gigabytes, which Nerdio actually automates for you, then you can even use a 2-core VM with ephemeral disks. So again, something else to be aware of. Now, new product capabilities and enhancements are great, right? But they're really not enough. So to support you and to continue to provide the services that you need to be successful, we're going to continue providing our pre-sales engineering and architectural assistance, where you can work with our PSCs, our engineers, who will work with you on quoting and architecting a solution so that you can feel confident in what you're proposing to your customers, both from a cost perspective and from a design perspective. And we'll also continue offering our go-live engineering experts who are going to help you onboard customers to Azure step by step. So if you've never done this before, we'll literally sit there with you and do it step by step with you and make sure that initial onboarding and subsequent onboardings are a great technical success and your customers are happy. And of course, as I mentioned before, we'll continue offering our world-class support to you. Now, one of our partners who consistently pushes us at Nerdio to help improving and setting the highest bar possible is CubeSys in Australia. We met CubeSys, I think, about a year ago, maybe more than a year ago, and we really instantly knew that this was the kind of partner that we wanted to have in Australia. And we're fortunate today to have Paul Heaton, the CEO of CubeSys, here with us. So Paul, if you can come up here, that would be great. You know, he and George really probably came the farthest to this event. So I'd like to invite him to come up here and tell us a bit more about his experience. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Vadim.
So Paul, you know, you definitely win the award for having the longest flight.
Yes, yeah. Don't let the English accent deceive you. I'm actually from Australia, so we flew in from Australia, which was about 20 hours flying, and then a 15-hour layover in San Fran, so quite a journey, yes.
Wow. Well, we're glad you made it, and we're happy to have you. So tell us a bit about CubeSys.
So CubeSys, we're about 9 years old now, and we've centered our business on two practices: Azure adoption and M365. And over the last couple of years, we have done now nearly 40 AVD projects. We're the first partner in Australia to become advanced specialized in AVD. So it's been an interesting time. Yeah.
Great. So I think I remember that we met, about 18 months ago. I think I remember our first demo that we did for your team, and you were really a hardcore Citrix shop. Mm-hmm. So, you know, what are some of the things that you saw that convinced you to, you know, partner with Nerdio and go the route that you took?
Okay, I think I could answer that question in one word, and that's value, right? The value that Nerdio brings to us and to our clients. Yes, we were a Citrix shop and doing a lot of AVD projects. A lot of our clients were keen, though, to stay native and weren't really all that keen on bringing some of those legacy technologies with them to the cloud. But they still obviously faced all that need to be able to manage AVD at scale, right? Mm-hmm. And to be honest, we weren't really looking for another product. So I was a bit resistant to that because we had always started investing internally in our DevOps practice to automate a lot of solutions for our clients. And then we got Vadim to do a demo. Vadim's demos have become legendary in CubeSys. And we have an amazing success rate with them, and I can't believe that you're always available to do them for us, so thank you. But I do remember walking out of that demo and talking to my business partner and saying, well, I think we'll stop our development right there. And ever since, we've introduced Nerdio to every single one of our AVD projects and clients, right? So it's been wonderful.
That's great. Really love working with you and your team. You know, you have a lot of VDI experience in Australia. You know, you've seen a lot of Citrix and have been doing this for a long time. You know, what are you hearing from customers when you talk to them about AVD native and, you know, relative to other desktop virtualization alternatives? You know, what are you hearing?
I'm actually really enjoying talking about AVD to clients, right? Breaking down some of the barriers and expectations that they have, right? And it's an exciting time for VDI. If you really think about VDI for the last, and I've been working with it for over 20 years, it's always sat on the fringe of IT strategy, the high cost of entry with all the CapEx costs, the complexity of managing multi-session, some of the technical challenges we have there, and then layer on top of that the licensing that we have to go through, like the additional licenses there. It's always sort of been difficult to get VDI to the central part of their strategies. What we've done with AVD now, we've broken all those sort of barriers of entry there, and we're really able to do some amazing things. And we're now delivering VDI sessions to scientists to do high compute, to GPU-intensive workloads for engineers, developers with like getting access from overseas. We have an ISV client that wanted a secure desktop so he could take his development offshore and do so safely, right, to make sure he kept his IP safe. So we're doing all sorts of wonderful things there with VDI that we traditionally couldn't really tackle, right? So I think it's a really exciting time, and I'm really keen to help our clients and their CIOs understand that value and bring VDI to that center of their strategy.
That's great. It's really good to hear the successes that you're having and the value that you're delivering. How important do you view Nerdio's close relationship with Microsoft and being able to kind of stay on top of those updates in our partnership and in other.
Well, I'd like to thank you for keeping it simple and making it easy for us. I mean, that close partnership, your zero-day support, your understanding of the technical values are great, but also the ability to interact in the partner ecosystem is fantastic, right? So I don't know if some of you have worked in the Microsoft Partner Center and at the Joys, I mean, which has improved tremendously over the last couple of years, but you make all that co-sell stuff really easy for us. So yeah, it's awesome.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming out and joining me here and telling everyone about your experience.
Yeah, thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you. All right, let's talk about a few other things I'd like to announce that are pretty exciting. So, beyond all of the existing programs and product enhancements as we spoke about, we're also planning to launch or have launched several new programs this year to really help you accelerate and go even further. So the first one I want to talk about is something we launched just last month as a pilot. We launched something called the CEO Summit Series, where we invite CEOs from MSPs to Chicago to spend time with me and members of my leadership team in sort of an interactive discussion dealing really with the hardest topics that MSPs face in building a successful cloud practice in Azure. We're running these about 1 to 2 times a month and inviting 10 to 12 leaders of MSPs on a first-come, first-served basis. And for anyone here today, I really want to invite you, if you're an MSP leader and you want to reach out to the email that's up on the screen, we'll get you on the list and would love to see and spend time with you and to figure out how to help each other improve. If you're wondering if this is worth your time and worth the time coming out, and we take care of all the meals in the hotel. You just have to get there. But if you're wondering if it's worth your time, just talk to the folks that came out to Chicago last month. I know Matthew and Michael and Brandon are here, maybe some others. So you can check with them whether it was time well spent, which I believe it was for all of us. I also want to tell you about a new program that's going to be a technical, sort of a resource where you can come in and ask technical and business questions or go-to-market questions in a live format. We'll be launching something called a weekly office hours call. You and your staff will be able to drop in and ask questions. The way this is going to be structured is going to be 30 minutes dealing with business and go-to-market and 30 minutes dealing with technology, so you can sort of choose the part of the call you want to join or join the entire call, and you'll be able to drop in, ask questions, hear the latest and greatest updates from Nerdio, or interact with your peers at other MSPs and talk about what you're seeing in the market, any technical gotchas, whatever the case may be, just gives another opportunity to interact with us and your peers. Now, the next program, which unfortunately we haven't named yet, so if you guys have a good name, we're looking for a good name for this program, but we really want to help you feel technically confident in taking all of your customers, not just some, and putting them into Azure, but taking all of them. And I know a lot of times we hear from our partners that they hesitate to go all in because they're afraid of the unexpected, the unpredictable. They may read the documentation, they may be certified, they may be doing everything by the book, but something just doesn't work as needed. And if it's a Nerdio-related issue, you know where to reach us and you know we're there to help you, but sometimes it falls outside of the scope of what Nerdio provides. It may be something, in Azure, it may be something with Active Directory, it may be with group policy, Azure AD identity, whatever the case may be. We know you need to have the level of confidence that if you take your customers into Azure, you have someone you can reach out to who may have seen the problem and can really get their hands dirty in helping you out. So we're going to be launching a new program for our Platinum partners who are going to get access to the top engineering experts at Nerdio to help you with these unusual situations in case they do arise. We'll work in conjunction with Microsoft support and really help support you across the board with both Nerdio and the Microsoft stack of products. The next thing I want to tell you about is the fact that the Nerdio's partner ecosystem is really thriving and growing, and it really spans many time zones, but also many skill sets. So what we'd like to do is facilitate partner-to-partner engagement by vetting and certifying MSPs and freelance engineers who can be available to help other partners, either with a specific skill set they may have that the partner may not, maybe a higher level of Nerdio or Azure expertise, or just an extra pair of hands on the projects that you may be understaffed. So we're going to be building and launching this capability to let you engage with your peers. And then, finally, we are excited to launch our newest program called Nerdio AVD and Windows 365 Training Camp. Now, what this is going to be a technical, basically a one-day deep technical training on Nerdio Manager, AVD, and Windows 365. And we're going to be doing this, in many different geographies. This is an event that's specifically designated for your technical resources, so they really don't want to miss this. And then stay tuned on details on when we will be in an area next to you. You can see on the screen some of the locations we've already identified for the early part of this year. The first one is going to be in Philadelphia on April 6th. So please register and send your technical resources to this kind of one-day deep technical immersion in Nerdio and Azure technology. Now, there are many more. These are just some of the programs that we're launching. There are many more, and you will hear more about them throughout today's and tomorrow's event. In fact, our Senior Director of Partner Programs, Natasha Boyko, will be leading a session tomorrow where she will share with you all the opportunities to engage with Nerdio this year. And there's really a lot of opportunities, both at industry events that we'll be attending and also events that are Nerdio-led, like this one. And all of this really wouldn't have been possible without you, our partners, who are really the focus of everything that we do. Having lived in your world, we understand the challenges that you face every day, and our mission is to empower you to be successful in building your cloud practice in Microsoft Azure and Windows 365. We really look forward to continuing this journey together at this really exciting time in our industry, as I mentioned, with lots and lots of opportunity. I certainly hope that you enjoy the event that our team has put together for you and worked so hard to make sure is a success. And I hope you leave energized, you're excited about the possibility of what lies ahead, and really armed with the knowledge that you need in order to succeed. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the event.